Hey, hey. Donna Green Goodman here. We're excited. Today is the day on our Journey to Better Health where we're talking about piling on the plant foods. So, if you're going to join us, come on. We'll be starting shortly. Hey, Annie. I see you, girl. Good morning. Hey, Desmond. If you can hear me, say something for me, please, or type something in. Okay, yay. Nicola, hi. So this morning, hi Cindy, I'm in my kitchen as usual at our regular place, and behind me you can see my Vitamix. And what I'm going to do this morning near the end, if we have enough time, for some reason I don't think we will, because I think a lot of people are going to be asking questions today because this seems to be a really hot topic. But for the last few days, I have been making these green smoothies. I do green smoothies sometimes, but this week I decided to do something different. I always use kale. And when I taught my class last year, we had a family who joined us. And this little girl who was in the class gave me some ideas for a smoothie. And she used, hi Mari, how are you? Hey Kurt. She used coconut milk, because sometimes when you do smoothies, they almost always take on the color, and I wasn't crazy about how the green smoothie looks. So she introduced me to using coconut milk and kale and pineapple. And let me tell you, it was delicious. So for the last couple of days, the smoothies I have been making are what's back here. And I've got kale in my blender. I'm going to put a banana in it. I'm going to use half of an avocado. My husband has really started eating a lot of avocados. I like them in guacamole or stuff, but I don't just like them sliced like my Caribbean friends on a piece of bread. But I've been adding them to my smoothies. And then I have some pineapple and mango, frozen pineapple and mango that I'm going to put in here and zip it right up. And that's going to be what gets me started this morning. Hey, hey, to my Carmen and Alex. And it's just been so delicious. The coconut milk that I use is from a major grocery store that is in the carton, but you can also buy the canned coconut milk. And if you're watching me from someplace around the world and you can go out and pick a coconut and, you know, drain out the water or the juice, that works. You can also use coconut water, and you can put in any kind of food that you want to, because what you're trying to do is put your meal in a blender and purify it, not purify it, liquefy it. And people have often asked me, well, should I do smoothies? Well, yeah, you can do smoothies, because you're not changing the way the food is. All you're doing is putting it in a blender and liquefying it. And before my mom died, she had a complication of surgery where her intestine didn't open. We didn't know what it was. But by the time we realized what was going on, she was dying right in front of us. We rushed her to the hospital. They figured out what it was, but she couldn't eat. And they told us to put her on those liquid meal replacements. Well, we looked at them. They didn't. They had dairy products in them, so we couldn't do it because she was on a totally plant-based diet. We took her to a hospital in North Georgia, where I actually went for my cancer care, and they just took dinner. They had baked potatoes and salad, and I think broccoli and carrots, and they took each of those and put them in the blender and liquefied it like you would do baby food, put it back on the plate, and her salad, she put salad dressing on top of this liquefied food. And so it just made sense to me, if you're at a place in your life where a loved one is and you're unable to masticate food, you can take the favorite food that you are likely to eat and just put it in the blender. and do it. I remember when I had a tooth removed back when I was a teenager. My family had made haystacks that day, and they were just laughing because I couldn't eat anything. I'm like, please just put it in the blender. So she put all my haystack in the blender, and I sucked it down. Flavor was the same. I was able to get the nourishment without a problem. Okay, so here we are at 7:31. That was just kind of the preamble to the Constitution. And what we're going to do today is talk about piling on the plants. Those of you who have registered and paid a registration for the book, go to the page in your book, if you can do that, and look at the page where we're talking about piling on the plant foods, because I'm going to reference that several times. If you have not bought the book, take good notes, and we will, of course, have this on my timeline later if people want to watch it. I see Elaine, Miss Humphrey Norman, thanks for joining. Nancy, hey, good to see you. I saw Dr. Edward Pilote is on. Glad to see him as well. And I met a young woman the other day. Let me see if I can find her. I think she's on her way to church, but she stopped to join us. Where did her name go? And watch me not be able to find it now. Maybe she has dropped off. Yeah, she must have gone already. Well, hopefully she can get to see it later on when she comes back from church. She said, I believe that's the one who said she had a Sunday school class. Oh, there she is. Ashaic Land. I hope that you're still with us. So that you can join us for the whole time and get some information. Okay, we're talking about piling on the plant foods. And today, those of you who can see it, I'm wearing an apron from my colleague and friend who is at the website shedidthatfood.com. Fiona Lewis and I worked together at Oakwood University when she was teaching nutrition and managing the dietetics piece of that. And she has become a vegan chef, and she's selling these beautiful aprons on shedidthatfood.com. And I'm proud to be a diva and wear her materials and recommend them to you. All right. When we're talking about piling on plant foods, one of the reasons that we want to do it is because of the amazing benefit. And as I'm talking to you today, I'm going to be saying a lot of stuff. So what I want you to do is take it in as I'm going, and then review the video if you need to, because here's how you can make this happen. As a health educator who's trained in home economics and nutrition, I have had to reevaluate what I have learned over the years, because much of what I was taught, I had to unlearn and add some other things to it. Because scientists, who of course are behind the writing of the textbooks, have discovered some things in the last 30 years that I was unaware of when I started this journey back in college on healthier living. And so when I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 1996, I decided that I was going to incorporate healthy lifestyle change in what I did. And one of the main things that I did, among other things, and what we talk about the most, is to embrace a plant-based diet. There's a lot of discussion now about what a plant-based diet is. Is it a whole foods plant-based diet? Is it a vegan diet? Are you an ethical vegan or whatever? And so what I have learned in my life, I live the way that I live because my body is a temple of God. That's my foundation. And so I tend to sift science through what God says. And that works for me. And so if a person is a believer, they can understand where I'm coming from when I talk about the word of God. If a person is not a believer, there is enough scientific evidence to support the value of plant foods. Years ago, we taught that you were a vegetarian if you didn't eat meat. And the division of vegetarian was if you did lacto-ovo, or if you did one or the other, lacto meaning milk, ovo meaning eggs, or if you were vegan and you didn't eat any animal products whatsoever. But a whole bunch of movements have come on the scene, and there are a lot of arguments that are occurring about the virtue of whatever you decide to do. My stance on that is do the best that you can where you are, make better choices, and watch how your body improves. For me, when I was diagnosed, it was invasive, aggressive, metastatic breast cancer, 2 to 5 years to live. I discovered that eating animal products and caffeine had contributed to the development of the breast cancer. Caffeine changes the breast tissue. I decided no more caffeine. Animal products are full of animal protein, casein, saturated fat, and cholesterol, all of which are indicated in the development of chronic illness, things like asthma, autoimmune diseases, constipation, you name it. So because I was asking God to heal me, I had to make some choices. And I decided what I was going to do as far as traditional medicine was concerned, which was stay in touch with my doctor. I had the cancer removed. I decided to do radiation. And then I drastically changed my lifestyle. For me, going to a plant-based diet was immediate. People want to know, do I have to take time to do it, or can I do it right away? You make the decision about what you want to do. In our clinic, we have patients who come in a variety of levels of illness. Some of them stop on the dime. Some of them decide they can't do it, so they just eat less, or they add some things to it. Some of them have spouses or significant other people in their homes that they are living with and cooking for, so they have to be considerate of them. We have one gentleman who decided he was going to do this no matter what anybody said. He's near about 70 years old, and he has embraced a total plant-based diet. His diabetes, all his liver enzymes, his kidney, everything. The physicians are amazed as it has turned around. We have another woman who decided to make all the changes. She texts us and comes by the office to get recipes, tries them with her husband, and he has, you know, embraced it without a problem. So how you do it starts in your mind. Do you want to do this thing quickly, or do you want to take your time? And I respect wherever a person is. When you decide to do this, the other thing that I had to learn was, years ago, when we talked about food, we spoke about it from the perspective of vitamins, minerals, nutrients, water, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. But in the time that I was diagnosed, they were beginning to discover, and there was a study done at National Cancer Institute at the time of my diagnosis, that actually showed how plant foods make a big difference in the body. And they were discovering in food what we now call phytochemicals, thus the hashtag Fight for Your Life, PHYT for your life. And so as a breast cancer diagnosee, I'm looking at this information and I'm like, wait a minute, that sounds like stuff that I learned when I went to Oakwood University and in my home, and stuff that I learned at Loma Linda about the value of plant foods. So let me follow this. And that was what actually helped me to decide that I was going to incorporate a plant-based diet for the rest of my life. As I began to read the article from the National Cancer Institute, made my decision, Essence Magazine contacted me and wrote an article about it because I was taking an unusual and unpopular step. But this was 22 years ago, and all this information wasn't available. So over the last 25 years at least, we have discovered that the Creator God has made food and He put colors in them. And in those colors are these phytochemicals that protect the plant. But when we consume the plant, it protects us as well. That blew my mind. So they were asking me to do some treatments and get on some things that were supposed to help with the receptor sites and reduce the risk of recurrence and keep the cancer from coming back. And as I began to study the foods that we ate, because now my training is in health education nutrition, I've been doing nutrition projects in national programs and statewide programs all of my career, and teaching people how to make better choices. So now what I had was some real ammunition to put in those guns that I've been carrying to show people how to shoot down disease. And literally, the things that struck me were the value of garlic, the value of lemons, the value of whole grain foods, the value of carob over chocolate or caffeine foods, the value of herb teas over green and black tea, which have caffeine in them, the value of eating whole grains, something like grits, the value of cultural foods, because there are so many foods within one's own culture that have amazing benefit, and you don't have to step outside of that initially if you don't want to. You can just eat those sorts of things. So what did I decide to do? I put my trash can to the refrigerator and I got rid of all the stuff that I was no longer going to eat. And then I started filling it with all the other wonderful healthy foods. If you can get organic foods, that's the first thing that you want to do. If you can grow a garden like we have done, that's probably even better. If you can't, then go to farmers markets. In Huntsville, at Alabama A&M University, you can get some things, but at Oakwood University, my friends, Edna and Artist Sydney has just begun organic gardens at Oakwood University where you can come and buy organic food. They're picking it in the morning, putting it in a little store. You can take it home and cook it. So the loss of nutrition is minimal. If you can't afford organic, now the smoothie that I'm making this morning has fresh kale in it that I got at Kroger, and the regular kale was 99 cents. The organic kale was 99 cents and was prettier in my opinion. I bought the organic. So you buy organic when it's in season. And that is probably the best thing for you to do. If you can't buy organic, then buy the purest, cleanest, conventional stuff that you can get and shop at different stores to get the produce that you need. Fresh is best. Then you want to get frozen, and canned is the last thing that you get. You will notice in all my presentations, I am for the person who is not able to afford the highest thing. So if you can't afford it, just make sure that you are able to get the best that you can afford and let the Creator God take up the rest of it. Okay, when we talk about piling on the plant foods, in the book, I list a number of categories of food. Cruciferous vegetables and what they do, onions and garlic, red foods, orange, yellow foods, again, because these are based on color. Your nuts and seeds, your cooking herbs, your whole grains, your beans, the oil out of olives, coconut, which is very good, and of course, water. Why are these things so good? In my own particular case, I decided, as my physicians told me that my DNA had been damaged, I wanted to incorporate things that could correct that, because we thought at one time, you get what you get when you're born and you can't change it. And some of the illnesses that we have are based on our choice, and other things are passed on to us. For example, my son had a bunch of allergies when he was a baby, and that was, I believe, because I was doing so much dairy and pizza when I was nursing him. And it wasn't until my diagnosis 7 years ago, when we pulled back from eating all the animal products, that all of that went away. So when you can make better choices, you can have better outcomes. So for me, foods like berries and grapes have a phytochemical in them that protects against cancer-causing agents and damaged DNA. So I do all kinds of berries and grapes and the juice of it. When it comes to the grape skin and the grape seed, resveratrol is one of the phytochemicals in it that stop cancer growth and slow down tumor growth. So I was doing that as much as I could find. Ellagic acid is something that is found in strawberries and raspberries. It defends the cell lining from carcinogens and prevents colon cancer. Lycopene is something that we find in watermelon, tomato, and guava. It protects against prostate, lung, stomach, breast cancers as well. The allyl sulfides, which are in your garlic and onions, stop tumor growth. Lutein, you can eat in a mango, all of my Caribbean friends. And this actually protects against breast, colon, prostate cancer. Quercetin prevents cancer. It clears the carcinogens out of the blood. And you find it in herbs and fruit and honey. Now about honey, again, I am from the Body Temple School, and the Word of God says in the beginning of the Bible, these are the things that you should eat. And when you get over to Proverbs, they're talking about honey and how good it is for you. So I use local honey, which is right down the street from where I live, and that has been a real blessing to our soul. And it has some amazing properties in it. There are other options for ethical vegans if you're not wanting to use anything where the bee is involved in it. But for Donna and her house and Lord, that's what we do. When it comes to lemons and oranges, it clears carcinogens from the liver. And then this one was probably one of the biggest ones for me, and when I fell in love with broccoli. All of your cruciferous vegetables, greens, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, have sulforaphane in them, and they maintain proper cell function and suppress tumors. This is just how this benefited me as a breast cancer survivor. My dad had cancer. My mom had cancer. My brother had AIDS. I have relatives who have diabetes and heart disease. We have patients who have the complications of diabetes and heart disease, who have diabetic neuropathy, whose kidneys aren't working, whose vision is starting to fail. And when they get away from the animal products and start to eat the plant foods, the body reverses itself. In the Word of God, in Genesis, he tells us what to eat: fruits, nuts, grains, and then vegetables after sin. We get further in the Word of God in Leviticus, and he gives us a clear outline of the animal foods that he's given us permission to eat, but I haven't found where he said eat milk and eat cheese, drink milk and eat cheese. He said these are the meats that you can eat, but these are the ones that you're not supposed to eat. And whenever you eat them, do not eat the blood or the fat. From a scientific perspective, nutritionists, dietitians especially, and physicians who are open to diet are learning that part of the reason they should eat fruits, nuts, grains, and vegetables is not just because of the fiber, but because of all the phytochemicals that are in there. They are also learning and confirming that in most chronic diseases, cancer, diabetes, hypertension, arthritis, obesity, all of it, your animal products, which are high in saturated fat and cholesterol, which are forbidden in the Word of God, are what increases the risk for disease. So let's look through that a little bit. When you're eating meat and animal products, the protein that is in the animal is to help the animals grow, just like what's in breast milk helps babies to grow. Y'all got that? When you're eating the animal products, there are some things in there, especially when it comes to cheese, something called casein. And the caseomorphins, as food is digested, attach to the brain just like cocaine, morphine, those sorts of things. And many of us who are trying to eat better and trying not to eat cheese can't do it because our brain and bodies are addicted to it. And that goes back to the saturated fat and cholesterol that we're not supposed to eat as well. If you are eating animal products, whenever you heat them, whatever you heat, fried chicken, heat a steak or whatever, as soon as you heat it, the fat in there becomes carcinogenic. A study was done at University of California, Northern California, where they compared African Americans to Caucasian Americans because they kept seeing all this prostate cancer in African Americans. And as they began to look at their habits, Black men were killing chicken. And in chicken, when you eat it, there is a substance in there that becomes carcinogenic, goes straight to the prostate and starts to wipe it out. However, when you're eating plant foods, they also go straight to the breast, straight to the lungs, to the liver, to the blood cells, to the prostate, and literally they are designed to keep us healthy. So, for example, if a person has heart disease and their blood vessels are blocked and their doctors are telling them to go home and die, go home, clean out your refrigerator, and start to eat a plant-based diet. The plant foods literally help to soften the blood vessels, clean out the blood vessels, improve every single indicator. And those of you who have seen What the Health or the other movie, the name escapes me right now, probably know that in those videos, many of the people who were told to die literally lived 20, 30, 40 more years because they fed their systems. When it comes to the use of herbs, I was also excited because at my diagnosis, I was told that my cells were poorly differentiated. And I kind of looked that up to figure out what that meant. They weren't replicating the way they were supposed to. And so I began, of course, to eat more plant-based foods. And one of the things that I started to discover was parsley helps to prevent the multiplication of tumor cells. And I believe that that is the one that actually helps in cell differentiation. So we wanted my cells to differentiate and be the breast cancer cells and not and be the normal cells, I'm sorry, and not the breast cancer cells. How do you make that practical for your life? Well, the other day, my husband and I were going to make some tomato soup for dinner, and we decided when he got home, he wasn't feeling so well, so instead of that, I decided to make a chicken noodle soup. I filled it. I sauteed some vegetarian chicken that I like to use. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. Then I put onions and garlic. I put fresh parsley. I put whole grain noodles. I put carrots and green peas. Then I added some olive oil, and I put in some nutritional yeast flakes and some chicken-like broth seasoning, a dash of cayenne pepper to stimulate the digestive tract and circulation to help him sweat out what was going on. And there you have health in a pot. All of the benefits of the plant-based foods that are released in your system, and you can start it today. Over the last 10 or 12 years as we've lived here in Huntsville, and people have come to my home for dinner and asked these sorts of questions, I'm like, well, hey, if you eat at my house, you're going to eat a vegan meal. I don't make no non-vegan food here. So if you're here at my house and you've eaten vegan today, that's the first day of plant food vegan for the rest of your life, and you can do it. I've got cookbooks. There are other people out there. I'm watching Darius Williams do his thing online. And let me tell you, meeting people where they are and helping them to go where they want to go is probably one of the greatest joys ever. And when you discover that if it tastes good, it's going to be good, then you're not so crazy about it. I think many of us are really concerned that when we eat more healthfully, that it's going to taste like a pile of crap. And nobody wants to eat a pile of crap, seriously. There were a couple of questions that were submitted. I'm trying to find those right now as I look through this. One of them was about sugar. Sugar is a totally empty calorie food. It does nothing for the body except taste good. I did a presentation last year with Message Magazine. I will see if I can get any of that information available to you. Maybe I can do an email and send that out to you. But sugar really has zero calories, zero nutrients and plenty calories. One of the worst things, that and alcohol. It's like a waste of your money to eat it. So people were asking, what kinds of sugars can you eat? I tend to start out with things like the whole fruit or things like the fruit juice. I use that to sweeten fruit toppings to go over waffles. I will use honey, stevia. I can't think of the other one that everybody's using now that's similar to honey. You can use that as well. What else can you do? You can put the fruit in it, and then if you can use molasses. And then if you decide to use sugar, you want to use sugar that is processed the least. White sugar is the sugar cane that has been juiced and processed and bleached and sent through the bones of animals in order to get what we get. So we don't use white sugar at all. Brown sugar is white sugar with molasses poured back in it. I tend to use what we grew up knowing as turbinado sugar. Now it's known as evaporated cane juice. It is the sugar cane that is juiced and granulated. The darker color is more like turbinado, and the lighter color looks more like white sugar. I use those on the occasions when I'm making a cake or something. If I don't care what the final product looks like, I will then use that. Stevia is another plant that you can grow, an herb. I do not recommend any artificial sweeteners at all. They found out a couple things. It messes with your central nervous system, and because the body knows that you're eating and it's expecting calories and you don't get any calories, then you want to eat more. So it actually makes you eat more than you would have eaten before. Somebody else asked me about soy. One of the questions that we got, one of the things that surprised me after my diagnosis was that soy is a bean just like all other beans that God made in the Garden of Eden, okay? And as I was getting my education, it was discovered that soybeans were the standard food to compare against for protein. It just outshone meat, especially because of the fiber and phytochemical content. In addition to that, it's a part of soy formulas for babies, and we have whole continents of people who incorporate it as part of their diet. Now, if you have trouble with it, don't eat it. But know this, soy's question is that it's GMO, so find one that's not genetically modified. And the other question is the phytoestrogens and how it can impact cancer, especially for women, and make men have problems sexually. It's the bean, y'all. And what they're not telling you is all your plant foods have phytoestrogens in them, all of them, at one level or another. And what is so amazing to me, and what I used to tell my students, don't just listen to the headline, do the research for yourself. And if you've done research and you feel like you don't need to eat soybeans, then don't eat them. You can eat other beans. You don't have to touch a soy product. However, flaxseed has way more than what soybeans are supposed to have. But everybody recommends flaxseed. Now explain that to me. And so sometimes when I'm talking to people, I just have one of those little conversations because, again, the enemy has come to steal, kill, and destroy. And as I'm watching Darius Williams with his cooking group online and the things that I've done over the years with Shaquela and Glenda and my students that I taught at Oakwood University, and how they will call their parents and share some of this information and the parents will get better, we're getting better as we make better choices. And the enemy's not happy about that. And the medical system in this country might not be real happy about it unless your physician is like Edward Pillow or Jacqueline Sylvester or Zaria Morrell or Faith Felder, and they're about making you healthy. Milton Mills, that group, they want you to recover your health. And so if you don't want to eat soy, you don't have to. But if you just Google phytoestrogens and plant foods, it will surprise you. And remember that flaxseed has way more than any of it. Have I done soy? Yes. Was I estrogen positive? Yes. Do I regret it at all? No. Do I force people to use it? No. If that's not what you want to do, you don't have to do it. Another person asked about whole food, plant-based eating excludes all processed food. What can you use for cheese and margarine? There are a variety of products on the market. Google vegan cheese or plant-based cheeses. I will post a picture, Cindy, in our group when we're done of the cheeses that you can use. And then when it comes to this oil thing, again, I'm looking at science, because back in 1980, 79, 80, 81, 82, when I was at training, they told us not to eat avocados. When I worked for the University of Georgia, don't eat avocados. Well, they've discovered that was wrong. They're talking about coconut oil being wrong. They're talking about oil being bad. If a person is still grilling pigs and they give up the pigs and they want to put a little oil on something, I'm good with that, because they have taken a step towards better health. In the Word of God, one of the biggest miracles was that woman who was the widow. And when the prophet came and stayed with her, all she had was some meal and some oil. I think it was cornmeal and a little olive oil myself. And the miracle was that it lasted and lasted and lasted. And so, do we need to be deep frying stuff? Definitely not. But there are benefits in the oil. Coconut is the fruit of a tree. And I believe that there are benefits there as well. And so wherever you are in the journey, do the research. Number one, science has provided that. Then get on your knees and ask God what to do. That's exactly what I did when I made this choice 22 years ago. Have not regretted it at all. Okay, I'm trying to scroll through here now to see if I see any more questions, unless my sweet husband is answering a bunch of them. You can go to our website, lifestyletherapeutics.com, if you are still interested in joining, because everyone is available to participate in the live session, but only those who are paid registrants and who have downloaded the copy of the new book, Still Cooking Up Good Health, join us in a private group. And I'm doing some more things over there with those folks, because these are patients and participants and registrants who have been with us and who are joining us via this. And as a health educator, my husband a physical therapist, we're offering some other things for you there. So if you'd like to participate in that, just go to the website. I see someone has asked about the books. You can go to lifestyletherapeutics.com, go to Shop for Better Health, which is at the bottom of the first page. Click on that. All the books are there. Something to shout about, Cooking Up Good Health, and the new ebook, Still Cooking Up Good Health. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Still Shoutin'. Listen, last week I took one of Darius Williams' recipes and I made it, and I'm telling you, my husband and I sat here and ate the whole thing in one setting. And what I'm watching as I watch him and other people, there's this joy that's supposed to come with eating. And in the Word of God, the first miracle that Jesus did was to turn the water into wine. And when they started serving it, they said this, why y'all save the best till last? And that's how I feel about plant-based, whole food, vegan, non-animal, dairy, whatever you want to call it, eating. Why did you save the best till last? This is the best decision. In 9 months' time, I had better results than the people expected me to have on all the radiation, chemo, and all that. And so you can't change it. When you have people who come back and their blood pressure's down, this is why. Because the food that you're eating, it's not just the fiber, it's the phytochemicals in the food that are going in there. And I'm heading to 8 o'clock, so I want to shut down quickly. There's an article that I have sent to the Cooking Up Good Health group, but I'm going to share it here with you, and this will be the last thing I say. They did a study, and they compared the diets of Africans and African Americans. This was not a vegan, plant-based diet. This was just Africans and African Americans. Before they did the study, they took samples of their intestines, both of them. The Africans had no indicators for intestinal cancer, colon cancer. The African Americans were full of indicators for colon cancer. So they said, well, let's see if we can switch their diets and see what happens. Well, you know what the African Americans were eating, right? Y'all know that, because that's how our relatives eat. And they looked at it, and they looked at the diets of the Africans. The Africans, while not on a plant-based diet, were eating a lot of plant-based foods, and meat was not the main dish. It was a side dish. So for 3 weeks, I believe it was, they switched the diets. The Africans ate like African Americans. The African Americans ate like African. And what do you think happened at the end of the 3 weeks? Let me tell you. At the end of the 3 weeks, the Africans now had indicators for colon cancer, and the African Americans' indicators for colon cancer had gone away. In 3 weeks' time, the change in the diet had changed what was happening in their DNA, y'all, and it switched. So don't let nobody tell you that eating like this can't do nothing, because it will. And it will change your life, and it will clear up your mind, and it will help. As a public health professional, I have spent my career with disparate diseases and making a difference in a population that is suffering the worst. And if you can grow some greens and put some onions and bell pepper and a little cayenne or some red pepper flakes and olive oil and some kind of broth in there, and not put all of that crap in there, who's not going to want to be healthier? God's greatest wish for us is that we prosper and be in health. In this country, scientists have been working on healthy people, whatever, since the 1970s. You are the one who can make the difference. Start eating plant-based, whole food plant-based, vegan, whatever kind of vegan you're going to be, do it, and watch the changes in your life. This probably is one of the most exciting topics for me. As you can see, I'm really animated today. I just love cooking up good health. And I hope that our time together has been a blessing to you. I hope that more of you are going to tell more of your friends. Next week, we're going to be talking about some more things. If you have any questions, I will go back through the comments to see if I can respond to those, if Eddie hasn't already. Those of you who are in the Cooking Up Good Health group, I'm going to be posting some more things for you. Right now, I'm going to sign off because I'm heading out to do some videotaping with my producer, Anthony Perkins, at Walmart, and we're going to be posting those. We are having a ball with them. If God puts anything on your heart about moving this forward, just tell him. We are touching and agreeing. We are speaking those things that be not as though they are, and we are receiving the gift of good health that God has promised. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. God says, I come to give you life, and I come to give it to you abundantly. And that's what we're after. We are cooking up good health. We are having the abundant life, and we are on a journey to better health. We're not trying to be perfect. We're not putting other people down. We are just making better choices so that we can be examples and give testimonies and help other people as they too want to get better. I hope you have an awesome week. You know I love doing this. I see you, Charles Brooks. I'm glad you're in here now. I really am. I really am. If you have any other questions, hit me up. Hey, Brenda Sanders. All the recipes online. Oh, and you can always go to the website. Those of you who have bought the new book have links to my cooking show. If you don't have that, you can go to our YouTube page, Lifestyle Therapeutics, where all of the cooking shows are there. And Anthony and I will be uploading some other things. Have a wonderful week. Eat more plants. Fight for your life. Love you guys. Bye.